What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Character Forge. My name is Spencer Sulliver. I am a player on Dungeons Divided. I play Gadu the Turtle, or I play Gadu the Turtle. And today we're going to be going over some builds with you today. I like to make builds that are fun, the builds that are thematic, not just trying to min-max and see how you can do the most damage, but to find builds that actually fit in a D&D campaign and ones that you can just play and have fun with. And today's build, I had a lot of fun making, and I hope you have a lot of fun watching. The build is going to be a sort of assassin rabbit. We're going to be choosing the Harengon race, and we are going to be going with a hybrid class of a ranger / rogue. Now you can always also play this as just a straight rogue, but playing around with all the abilities and everything, I found that the ranger-rogue combo fit extremely well. Let's just go straight into the build then, shall we? Before I go into the build, of course, I do have a Patreon account up here where all these builds are available to you from levels 1 until 20, and you can just print them out and go from there. And yeah, if you want to go ahead and check that out, you can. I try to update them as soon as they are made. And of course, make sure to subscribe and also check out the Discord for Dungeons Divided. Also, if you're using Amazon Prime to subscribe to Dungeons Divided, make sure you resubscribe every single month, because you have to actually click the subscribe button once again every month to make sure you stay subscribed. It's kind of annoying. That's the way Amazon Prime Gaming makes you do it. Oh my gosh, I got the carpet stuck on my foot. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and go into the character builder page. We're going to be choosing the Harengon race. Now, it's pretty important you choose Harengon. You don't necessarily, you can find different ways to go around this build if you want to do something like Gunslinger or something instead of going Ranger, but to make this build work the way I'm building it, we're going to be going Harengon. The reason we're going Harengon is because, how do you pronounce it? Harengon? Harengon? I don't know. The reason we're choosing this is because we get the, there it is, hair trigger. You get the hair trigger perk, which means you can add your proficiency bonus to your initiative rolls. This is going to make your initiative rolls go very high, and you are always going to be going first in combat. By the time you're level 15 or 16, it's almost impossible that anyone goes before you. It's going to be probably the fastest, quickest draw, quickest hands of the West sort of build for D&D. And we're going to be going, once again, level 1, we're going to go into a Ranger. We are going to be going with abilities here. Strength is going to be your dump stat. Dexterity is going to be your main stat, along with Wisdom. Constitution is always good to have. Intelligence is going to be another sort of dump stat, and so is Charisma. But it's okay to have those both at around 10. The preferred point buy system that I went with was 9 strength, 15 dex, 12 con, 10, 15, 10. And you can drop 1 point in dexterity because you'll still be at that plus 3 to your dexterity on a start. But it's nice to have that extra 17, that extra half point, because we can take a half feat later for dex and get that extra bump by getting something like squat nimbleness or piercer or something else that gives you like 1 point of dex instead of going for that full dex ASI or ability score improvement. So that's kind of the build I found. Strength is not necessary, especially because we're going to be kind of hiding in the shadows for most of this build. All right, we have Harengon. We gave ourselves a +2 to dex and a +1 to wisdom already. We have the size. Make sure you choose small so you can choose that squat nimbleness later, and you can be having a better time with hiding in the shadows. Speed, 30 feet, is fine. It's kind of the base. We get that hair trigger stat. You also get leporine senses. Leporine? I don't even know what that word means. But you have proficiency in the perception skill. Since we have a high wisdom, that's going to be great. We have lucky footwork. Whenever you fail a dexterity saving throw, you can actually roll a d4 and add it to the save, potentially saving you from a dex save, which is pretty cool because things like area of effect abilities are going to be some of our weakness. So it's great that you can actually add a little bit to that. And then rabbit hop. This is actually a extremely funny ability with going Ranger, because later on, as you will see, we can actually get a spell that will triple our jump distance. We get one that will increase our jump distance, and you can jump extremely far. I'll tell you exactly how far towards the end of the build. All right. We're going to Ranger. Also, before you start, if you're using things like D&D Beyond or whatever, make sure that you enable optional class features. It's just a really good way to make sure you are having options to customize your characters even deeper. Most of the time, these are things that are completely allowed in D&D, and you will have to ask your DM before you choose these, but they're things that are pretty common. They just give you more options. And Ranger suffers in the early game because Deft Explorer, for instance, and Favored Foe just aren't really that strong. But if you choose the optional class feature for both of these, Deft Explorer and Favored Foe, you actually get to have a sort of half expertise perk where we can choose another ability, and anything you're proficient in, you can actually gain, immediately you can gain that much more off of it, as if you were sort of like a half rogue character. We're going to be choosing stealth because that is our most important feature for this class. Hit points, of course, 1d10, great, nice and tanky. Favored foe, doesn't really matter with what you choose here. It's, up to you, up to personal preference. By choosing that optional feature, the first time you attack on each of your turns, you do an extra 1d4 of damage. It's pretty cool. Proficiencies, things like insight and stealth and investigation, I think are good for us. That's kind of what I went with. Make sure the most important is that you're choosing stealth here. Survival is also pretty good if you want to change that up for something like investigation. Insight, stealth, survival, those are all three pretty good starting proficiencies. Now, once we hit level 2, we are going to get our fighting style, and we are actually taking thrown weapon fighting. This is one that is extremely overlooked in D&D, and things like throwing weapons and unarmed weapons are things that I like playing around with because they are not common, and it's kind of hard to make builds around them. But throwing weapon fighting is going to be great for this class because we're going to be a ninja hiding in the shadows, sort of like throwing out these ninja stars and whatnot to do pretty good damage, actually, to our enemies. We also get spellcasting here. Excuse me. And if we go into the spell tree here, we'll see that we get things like Hunter's Mark, good berries, and all that. I feel like the most important one to get is Hunter's Mark is pretty good. You don't necessarily need it, but it's pretty good. Jump is one I would highly recommend getting as well, because jump allows you to, as you can see here, you touch a creature, which can be yourself, and your jump distance is now tripled until your spell ends. Now, level 1 or level 2, we can already have the jump spell, and our Rabbit Hop allows us to jump. I believe the base jump is it 30? Let's see. I'm just going to make sure here. Features racial traits. Sorry, it starts off at 10. Never mind. It doesn't start off nearly as high as I thought. But it does increase as you sort of gain levels and whatnot. So you can actually jump 30 feet at level 2 with that ability. 30 feet is quite a far distance. After you level up this class even more, that 10 goes up to 20, goes up to 30, and you can actually have a jump distance of 90 feet. Towards the end of the build, which is crazy. I mean, you can jump over the Grand Canyon with, actually, I don't know how far the gap is on the Grand Canyon, but you can jump really far, which is going to be great because also when you jump, you can jump over sort of past enemies and avoid those opportunity attacks jumping from shadow to shadow or something like that. All right, we are going to be taking Ranger up until level 5. We want to make sure we get level 5 because we want that extra attack, which is going to be a good amount of damage. Our archetype, we are going to be going with Gloom Stalker, one of my favorites. Gloom Stalker is going to give you the Gloom Stalker magic, which allows you to use Disguise Self, which is fine. It fits with the roguey vibes. It gives you Dread Ambusher, which is at the start of your first turn of combat. You can actually walk. Your walk speed is increased by 10 feet, lasts until the end of your turn. And if you take the attack action, you actually get another attack. So we already get to attack 3 times as a Dread Ambusher on the first turn. Pretty cool. 3 attacks, level 5, pretty strong. And with our ability score improvement, we are actually going to be getting the Sharpshooter feat. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, how are we taking the Sharpshooter feat if we're using throwing weapons? Because on the Sharpshooter feat, it describes not throwing weapons, but ranged weapons. So once you hit with a ranged weapon, you can actually take a -5 penalty to that attack roll, and you can add +10 to the damage. Now, since we're a Gloom Stalker and we're sitting in the shadows, when we are in the shadows, we are actually considered invisible. which will give us advantage on all of our attacks. So that is off-put by the -5 pretty well, so that we can get advantage with a -5. Having a decently high dex, you should still be hitting with most of your attacks. I don't know what the math is, like 65% or something like that. It's pretty good, maybe a little higher than that even, especially towards the beginning of the game. We get Umbral Sight, we can see in darkness, which is great. We get extra attack. Now we can throw 3 darts. With our throwing weapons, you can throw as many darts as you want, because it says whenever you throw a weapon, you can actually draw that weapon as part of your action. So you don't have to worry about things like action economy for drawing weapons and throwing weapons. So you can attack as many times as you have darts, basically. You could also take things like Fighter and use Action Surge and get an additional 3 attacks, which is great. I'm not trying to meta build the build too much, but 2 points in Fighter, especially towards the end, will give you a nice spike in damage that you can kind of throw out there. Plus, you can also get Archery, which will give you an extra +2 to hit, which will even increase that a little bit more. Now, after we do that, we are going to be going into Rogue. I like the Rogue because it also gives you, once again, you get Expertise level 1. We can choose things like Survival, which fits the build pretty well, going for that going for that sort of rogue assassin type of build we were doing. And then Perception, of course, is just fantastic all around. So now we have an extremely high Perception, Stealth, and Survival. Pretty cool. You can kind of increase anything you want here. Sleight of Hand is another kind of fun perk for this one as well. You can actually just drop Survival if you wanted to and go Sleight of Hand, because I feel like it's a little bit more useful in D&D in general. Survival is not really used a whole lot. So if you want, you can just go Sleight of Hand instead. That way you have things like Thieves' Tools and whatever else you want to use. Or if you want, you can go Proficiency in Thieves' Tools too. We get our Sneak Attack. So every time we're attacking with advantage, we also get to roll 1d6 once per turn. It helps kind of increase our damage a little bit more. And we're going to be going up until level 3. After level 3, of course, we get Cunning Action level 2. And then so we can, of course, use that hide action if we are ever cut out. And since we're small and we're very stealthy, we should always be able to be sort of hidden. And if there's shadows around us, we should always be able to be invisible, which is awesome. Now, there are 2 different ways to build this build. You can go Assassin, and if you go Assassin, you're a ninja. You're a ninja Harry. Yeah. So we have Scout and we have Assassin. I think those are the 2 best ways to play this build. Assassin is going to give you that instant crit, basically, whenever you are considered to be surprising an enemy, you will instantly crit. Now, that sounds amazing, but critting on this build, I mean, we're doing 3 attacks a turn. The 3 attacks are doing okay damage. It's not a huge increase in damage. Most of that's going to come from your Sharpshooter or ability, which is going to give you that +10. So +10 turns into a +20. That's pretty good. But the way I was playing the build and what I really enjoyed was playing Scout. Now, Scout is going to make it so whenever you get caught out, or if ever an enemy tries to kind of find you in this darkness or tries to swing at you or whatever, you actually get the Skirmisher feat or semi-feat, class feat, whatever you want to call it, which means whenever an enemy lands next to you, you can move up to half of your speed as a reaction, and this does not provoke opportunity attacks. So whenever a melee enemy tries to come up to you and attack you or anything like that, or grapple you, you can immediately just run away 15 more feet and, into the shadows again you go, invisible again, have fun trying to catch you. I think this works extremely well. If you want to do a little bit more damage, you can go Assassin, but we're not really hitting that level 17 spike because we were taking 5 levels in Ranger. So I just like going Scout. I think Scout fits this build really well. Once again, personal preference. After that, we can actually just keep increasing Rogue. I didn't choose a proficiency here? I guess I didn't. I will choose Investigation, sure. Oh, I think I got another one is what happens. So we can go up until level, 6 or 7 or whatever. I don't think there's any reason to go past 5 on Ranger at this point. We got the extra attack, we got the Gloom Stalker ability, and really, getting these resistances and everything is just not really, I don't think it's worth it. We're going to be getting a lot more damage and a lot more utility from just going straight Rogue after this. So at level 5, you get Uncanny Dodge, which is when an attacker that can see you hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to half the attack's damage against you. Awesome, we're taking less damage whenever they can hit us. Ability score improvement. We get our second feature, which is actually going to be, there's a couple different ways you can do this. I like going with alert, especially if you're going assassin. Alert is great because it fits in with our build really well. You get another additional +5 to initiative. And with the ranger, Gloom Stalker, you also get to add your wisdom modifier to your initiative. Now, if we wanted to take a look at our initiative right now, we are only level 10. We already have whenever this loads, I think it's like we already have a +15 to initiative if you take that alert feat. Alert also means you cannot be surprised yourself, so things like assassins can't actually get, sort of surprise attacks on you. And we have that +15 to initiative, which means that even if you roll a nat 1 on your initiative count, you're going to be at a 16. That is still extremely high. And since we chose Scout later on in Scout, you also get, where is it at? Ambush Master. At level 13, you also get Ambush Master, which you get to roll with advantage on your initiative rolls. And we're still going to be increasing our dex and our wisdom and everything else after this. So the initiative at max level, if you really want to max out all this, you can get a +21 with advantage to your initiative. So if you want to go assassin and you want to always go first, that's a good way to do it. As soon as the battle starts, you're going to run off to the shadows, turn invisible, and get 3 attacks on an enemy. Really cool sort of ambush tactics. The assassin bunny, the assassin rabbit, whatever you want to call it. And of course, you get that sneak attack damage as another good feat. Instead of choosing alert, you can also, because we already have +10 to initiative. Do you really want +15? Is it worth it? I love going it for the theme, but you could also just choose like Poisoner. Poisoner is also a great feat for this because we are going to be having a lot of darts that we're throwing at enemies, and you get to, with a Poisoner feat, you can actually, I think, poison 3 pieces of ammunition instead of just like 1 sword slash. So you have all these poison darts. You can poison them as a bonus action and throw off 2 darts with poison on them immediately in the very beginning. And that poison is also going to do additional damage. It's a good way to just buff up your damage, poison enemies. It's a fantastic feat to take as well. Since we're sticking to Rogue, they have some good ASIs. You're going to be able to get a lot of these ability score improvements. Now, let's just kind of max it out here. I'm just going to go straight into 15 so you can see just sort of as we're going to build it here. You get second expertise at level 6. You can choose more abilities here. Really, that's up to you. Thieves' Tools is great. Insight's going to be great too, since we have that high wisdom score. Personal preference. Evasion is going to be great as well, because now we have, whenever you're subject to something that lets you throw a dexterity saving throw, you only take half damage. And with our sort of Harengon feat as well, we can actually roll a 1d4 on top of that to even guarantee that even more. So those stack really well with each other. Ability score improvements again. Now we can go with a feat, alert, poisoner at this point if you didn't take one or the other. Besides that, those are really the best ones that I thought to take on the feats. There's not really a whole lot that I think are that much better. We can take squat nimbleness as well early on, and that's going to give you a +1 dexterity because you're going to go up by 1 point, which will give you an 18 in dexterity now. And now you can also take advantage on things like acrobatics to avoid being grappled even more. That way you can always make sure no one can ever grapple you. Grappling isn't going to be a huge issue for your character. You're always going to be going first. You have such a good speed. You can jump over enemies. It's going to be hard to catch you. This is going to make it nearly impossible. So if you want to choose squat nimbleness, you can. Otherwise, you can just go straight into stats, and you want to max out your dexterity with those ability score improvements as soon as possible. Once again, there's no reason to choose dexterity with 2 points first. You might as well go with something like Piercer or squat nimbleness first, because that is going to give you a +1 to dexterity, which will give you that boost immediately anyways. So you might as well take something like squat nimbleness. And then the other ability scores here. You also get superior mobility, which increases your movement speed by 10 more feet at 9th level since we chose Scout. Ability score improvement here. We're going to go with Dex. Now your Dex should be at around +5. It should be maxed out at 20. And of course we get those things like Reliable Talent, which comes from the Rogue tree. Another ability score improvement. You can max out your Wisdom. I don't know if Wisdom maxing out is really worth it. You're going to be getting a little bit better saves. You're not really counting on the Wisdom for any sort of casts or anything like that. But you do get a +1 to initiative by just maxing out that Wisdom. So it's up to you if you want to take just another feat of your choice, or if you just want to go with something like maxing out your Wisdom. Yeah. We also get Ambush Master, like I talked about. And this is going to basically just make sure you go first in every single fight. This is going to give you advantage on all your initiative rolls, and it's going to make sure that you are always able to attack first, like I said. Blind Sense is great. Now you can also fight. You are aware of the locations of any hidden or invisible creature, so you can be invisible all you want, but the enemies can't, which is great. And you can hear and be aware of all their locations, everything like that. So you are a fantastic scout. If you're walking through darkness and there's an enemy that's invisible right next to you, you know of their whereabouts, but they don't know of you. So a lot of really cool play style there, especially with building that sort of assassin bunny rabbit build. And then we get Slippery Mind, which gives you proficiency in wisdom saving throws, which is cool. You can, of course, drop those last 2 levels, drop Blind Sense and Slippery Mind, to instead go for, once again, this is max level 20, so this isn't probably going to happen. But you could choose another class earlier on if you wanted to, before boosting these points into Rogue, and you can actually go Fighter, which is going to give you, at level 1, it's immediately going to give you an additional +2 to hit, which is awesome, because that makes sure that we can hit with those sharpshooter feats. And then, if you wanted to, you can go to level 2 just for that action surge. So level 1, it says whenever you attack on your first turn, you are able to use a bonus action to you're basically able to attack a second time for free. Now, it's kind of unclear in the description whether or not you can use that on an action surge. So kind of talk with your DM about that, but really it just says, let's see, where is it at here? Ranger, Dread Ambusher. At the start of your first turn in combat, your walk speed is increased, blah, 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 which lasts until the end of your turn. If you take the attack action on that turn, you can make 1 additional weapon attack as part of the action. So Action Surge gives you a second action. So technically, you would be able to use Dread Ambusher again. Also, you do 1d8 extra damage. I forgot to mention that. So you're able to roll 1d8 extra of damage on that throwing weapon. And really, in my opinion, it should be able to be used a second time with the fighter, with the Action Surge. I mean, you're only getting to use this like once, so it's not really a huge deal, anyways. But you could take that two dip into fighter pretty much immediately. Now, if you really wanted to min max, you could drop the Ranger feat entirely, get rid of Gloom Stalker. You wouldn't be able to hide in the shadows anymore. You'd still be able to use the hide action to hide. You would lose that wisdom to your initiative, but do you really need it? But you could also just go straight up Assassin and go with something like Grave Domain Cleric and have that double crit with level 17 Assassin and level 2 Cleric. You can basically do quadruple damage. 8 times damage. Yeah, you do double damage, then they are considered double damage again, which is 4, and then double damage again because if they fail their Constitution saving throw with the Assassin. So that first dart is actually doing 8 times damage. With Sharpshooter, you can really nuke people. It's a little bit of a min-maxer. It takes basically until level 20 to actually get that. So the whole time you're playing, you're not really like playing as a theme. I wanted to make something that was thematic. As you grow as a character, you could kind of play that assassin bunny in the shadows sort of thing. Now, background doesn't really matter. You can choose whatever background you think works. You could be a spy, you could be a urchin. Just play that the way you want. You can even make your own if you wanted to. Equipment, we want to make sure we have a crossbow, a light crossbow, just in case enemies are out of our reach with something like a throwing dart. The throwing darts don't have a very far reach. I mean, it's a 20-foot range and then a 60-foot range long distance. So, I mean, your range on the darts is not very good for throwing weapons. We also want to make sure you get a net. As a net, you can actually throw and make sure an enemy cannot move. Awesome as well. This has a very short range, but you could throw a net on someone and then run away to the shadows, then attack them as well. Just kind of situational. Poisoner's Kit, you can start off with one. You don't really need one until you get the Poisoner's Feat anyways, but having poisons on these darts is going to make you a little bit more of a threat. Since we have the money for it, might as well go for studded leathers. And then just maybe 2 daggers to have one in your hand, one in your offhand. That way you have something for close range sort of combat as well. Now you could min-max this a little bit more and go with 2 hand crossbows, but I think just having those throwing weapons, it just seems so much more fun and thematic to me. And I think it just fits the build way more than just sort of shooting from the shadows. Up to personal preference, but like I said, you're not really missing out on that much damage by using these throwing weapons. They're doing 1d4 instead of like 1d6. It's really not a big deal. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. It's pretty straightforward. There's no like super multi-classing or anything like that. You're basically just going Ranger till 5, and you're going Rogue after that. Those sneak attack damage dice are going to be adding up over time. You're going to be making sure you hit with that sharpshooter a lot. You could be hitting with 3 sharpshooter abilities in the first turn. I mean, minimum damage at level 5, you're going to be doing, I don't know, oh my god, I'm so bad at math. 10, 20, if you hit with all 3 attacks, you're doing like 30, 40 something damage at level 5. That's pretty good. That's pretty darn good. And then, of course, with sneak attack damage, those sneak attacks just add up that much quicker. Yeah, that's pretty much, like I said, that's pretty much the build. By the end of the game, if you, I think I have this all correct, by the end of the game, if you don't even add anything to Wisdom, if you just have that alert feat, oh, I don't even have it added, but you should have around 17 initiative plus advantage, just by having the +3 here and the +3 here. It's pretty awesome. I mean, you're going to be rolling 25s to 35s on initiative all the time, so you're just going to be first in line every time a fight happens. Definitely the quickest hands in the West, or quickest hands in the East, I guess, depending on where you're playing this campaign. But anyways, that's it. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, not a whole lot here. It's pretty easy to play. It's not a super complicated class. It's just, it fits this one sort of theme very well of playing that assassin in the shadows who always has the jump on his enemies. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching once again. If you would like to subscribe to Dungeons Divided, make sure you do that down right here. Click the subscribe button. Once again, if you subscribe using Amazon Prime, make sure you resubscribe every month, because it makes you do that. And you can skip all the commercials, and you can be part of our community, sort of influence the games that we play every Saturday nights through Dungeons Divided. If you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to leave on this build, we also have a YouTube channel. You can leave the comments there, or you can email us as well. We have a Discord down here as well. We have a lot of ways to contact us. But yeah, ask questions. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you next time. All right, have a good one.